the background. And it started out really as a, I guess, Julian, we started because I had spoken at that Emory Climate Conference, and we had some Georgia Tech students involved with Dr. Brown, and we wanted to discuss some of the issues that were talked about there. And we initially did quite a few of them, during the semester, and then just kind of backed it off. But do you want to share a little bit about your vision for this, Julian, and introduce yourself as well?
Sure. This all kind of started out spontaneously because after the meeting that you mentioned, Crystal and I had both contacted you directly, and you had suggested that the three of us get together and chat some more. And I said, well, can we invite a couple other people too? And then it kind of gradually evolved. And after a few meetings, we settled into a pattern where we always have a special guest, and usually a few academics and a few students and a few subject matter experts. And today, I'd like to welcome back those few of you who have been regular attendees and a few new faces, and introduce our special guest, Denny Miller. I met Denny a few months ago. I had been looking into alternative building materials and techniques for a planned home build, something we had discussed in a meeting last summer. And I was very happy to find Denny and Omniblock, especially because it's actually a locally available material. And being concrete based, it's not something you're going to ship cross country. And we also have a partnership with a local manufacturer to fabricate the blocks that Denny's company makes. So Denny's out there in sunny Las Vegas. We're in
pretty sunny,
cold and wet Georgia here. I'm pretending it's sunny with my background there.
Great. Denny, we're excited about having you on today to learn more about this. I think my dad built houses when I was small, just little 2-bedroom ranch houses down in Clayton County near the airport. And they then moved houses. They took older houses that they would buy in an area that, say, was going to be condemned, like one of the runways of the airport, knocked the blocks off, knocked the bricks off the houses, jacked them up. You've seen house movers, moved it to another piece of land, dig a basement, and then knock all the excess cement off the blocks and recycle the bricks, and recycle the bricks on the house. So, but I mean, we never imagined way back then, we didn't know anything about energy efficiency, and we didn't know anything about, technology, in building materials. And so I'm anxious to find out, what difference does it make, right? And is it worth the extra cost? And how long does this material last compared to others? What's this material made of? I know one of the things I'm most excited about right now is that we're taking a lot of coal ash out of a plant down in Albany, Georgia, as they say there, and it's going down to Portland cement, and it's being used, to increase the adhesion in cement. That's great for a couple reasons. One, at some point, I guess they'll use all of our coal ash, and that gets it out of the ground and helps us restore, that property. And it also is great to render it inert, putting it into parking decks, blocks, roads, and that kind of thing. So, we'll have you do your presentation, and then make sure to save time for questions for our geeky bunch here. And so take it away, Denny.
Okay.
You should be able to share your screen too if you.
Yeah. You've just said you got to enable that, Julian.
Okay, you should be able to now.
Yep. So you should all be seeing a green screen.
Yep.
Okay. I have about 15 slides or thereabouts. I won't fly through the presentation, but certainly to give you an overview, there's quite a bit to cover. Commissioner Echols mentioned about the back then they didn't know about energy efficiency. Sometimes I wonder if we know about it now. So we will kind of address all of that, hopefully. Which is what I got involved in it. You know, the green building aspect back in the day. Start out the conversation. I had a builder that was the #1 home builder in Arizona, custom home builder for 12 years in a row. And I made an appointment. I always try to make my appointment strategically right before lunch so that I can maybe spend enough time and say, hey, you know, you got time for lunch and get a little more windshield time with them, so to speak. And so we did, and we went out and this was in 1996, and I was actually working on the Scottsdale's Green Building Program, which was the 3rd green building program in the country at the time. And so I'm having lunch with him, and I said, Tom, have you ever considered building your houses green? And I never forget, we're at a Chinese restaurant. He put down his soup spoon. He goes, Denny, he says, why would I want to build my houses green when the tan ones are selling so well? So completely didn't know anything about green. So anyway, so Omniblock. First of all, it's a product that is very flexible. We use it in commercial buildings. This won a LEED Silver Building award. It's very durable. We can use it so it's very moisture resistant and that type of thing. So I lead off with this type of building. We also do a lot of residential buildings. This is up in the seismic zone in Emeryville, California, near San Francisco. It was featured in Dwell magazine a few years ago now, but you can see a stack bond exposed interior. That's just one option that we have. We don't have to do that, but shows the flexibility as far as and the structural strength of the building. This building is recently completed in Las Vegas. Again, it's exposed block, very contemporary. We're doing another stack bond, but this time we're honing the block, so we're actually polishing it to look like almost like granite. So there's that flexibility. Again, I'm showing you these because I want to show you some other ones down the road here. But for example, if you see that shelving that's over on the left-hand side, that is a very thin metal shelf that's embedded into the block. And I mean, I did it. I stood on it, and I'm 250 pounds, maybe 255 after the holiday, but it's I could stand and jump on that thing and it doesn't even move. So we have some things you could do with our block that you really couldn't do with some alternative construction, including wood frame. This is a new look that we've introduced. It's a kind of a mortar wash over the block. It can be contemporary, but it also can be old world. But we're excited about this new look that we're offering, and architects are excited about it. So now let's get into the actual block as well. So, what I did is I just took a regular standard CMU block. If you can kind of picture that in your mind and say, okay, well, that block has been around for, you ask how long is it good for? Hundreds of years. That block will be there for, I don't know about forever, but a long time. Well, what I did is I just took the 3 cross webs out of that block and put in a middle lineal wall, which allowed me to offset the cross webs and constrict the cross webs. To understand energy efficiency, the first thing you need to do is understand heat. Heat is what moves. Julie mentioned about it being in the kind of cold down in Georgia now. He's got his home nice and warm on the inside, and the cold is on the outside. Is it the cold trying to get into the house, or is it the heat trying to get out of the house? Well, heat chases cold. So if he opens up a window or a door, you feel this blast of cold air, but it's not the cold air trying to get into the house, it's the heat escaping. So that's the first thing we have to do, is understand heat flow. And what we're doing is we're reducing the heat flow by adding a middle lineal wall that is a heat sink and also a sound sink. We have all of these different finishes that we can offer between stained, painted, stuccoed. We can do integral color, split face. We can do all kinds of finishes with one block. And in the interior, we don't fur out and insulate and sheetrock. We'll show you how we do that, but it's a single white system. So it's very economical from the standpoint of we're only using 8 inches of space. It's very structural and so on. So we're going to get into why it works now. So this cell is where we put the insulation. This is a constricted area where we reduce the crosswebs. We offset the crosswebs, and we can also do on the interior, we can do many of the same finishes that we can do on the exterior, or we can plaster it to look just like drywall. The short insert, these cells create cells for inserts, and typically we'll put the insert into both of those cells, except where rebar and grout, vertical rebar and grout, is called for by the structural engineer, and we'll leave that cell out, and that's what gets rebar and grout. What we do is then expose the thermal mass, the effective thermal mass, and it's really the age-old Adobe principle. You've been in a basement in the wintertime, it's pretty warm, naturally. In the summertime, it's pretty cool, naturally. Well, we're using that and bringing that effect on the first, second, and third floors. The short insert overlaps from block to block. So that's the, I was working with a professor at Arizona State University quite a while ago, and he coined the phrase that this is a high-tech product in an earthy sort of way. There's a lot going on here, but it really isn't, it doesn't come out and slap you in the face. The block units that we use, we have basically 5. There's a 6th one I'm going to show you later, but 5 is the main system. The half block that's on the far left is the standard 888 that you can buy at Home Depot or any building material place. The other block is the standard block that we kind of mentioned, the 3 crosswebs. That's a standard block unit that also is available at Home Depot. The block below that is the stretcher block that I just showed you. And then the 2 other blocks are the corner blocks or jam blocks that are basically half of a standard block design and half of our design. The inserts are standard. They come in 100 count bags, 10-pound bags that can be moved around on the job site, can be shipped very economically, and they fit into those cells and they just get dropped in. This is a typical wall, a first course, I should say, of the insulation and the block. So we have 3 layers of masonry and 2 layers of insulation. And you can see the rebar and grout there too. This is a little collection of our miniature Omniblock models. This is the stretcher unit, and it's laid just like regular block. Mason lays a course of block like this, and then we put the inserts into the cavities, such as this, and we overlap the short inserts from block to block, covering the mortar joints. And you can see that we just keep doing this along the wall until we've got both layers of insulation. And this is the 8-inch system that we're showing. And we can get a little room here and show you, we have the corner units, and they're mirror images of each other. So we have left and right corners. So to create a corner in our little wall that we just built, there's the corner. And then the second course, we would use the opposite corner and stack that up the wall, alternating the left and right corners. The corner units are very flexible in that we can create in the wall that we just built also a window jamb or door jamb, such as this, using a half 888 block, standard block. This is a door and a window jamb. We can also use the block to create control joints. In a wall, a long wall, we can do it this way using the half block again. And then we can also stack the block like this so that we can have an inline pilaster, if you will, where rebar and grout can go if there's a beam seat called for anywhere in the wall. We can also leave this hollow and let plumbing sit in there. We can use it for electrical chase. So the flexibility of just the 3 units is quite extensive. In all of our block and all the walls, we can build with just the 3 units. That's a lot easier than to bring a bunch of block into an architect's office and show him how it works. So that's 1/5 scale. And of course, that's all plastic and that type of thing. We use block, and then the foam inserts are expanded polystyrene, which is an oil byproduct. Real quick, we also have a 12-inch unit to do the higher structural required walls, like gymnasiums, schools, churches, warehouses, that type of thing. And you can kind of see how the rebar is staggered on the right-hand side. Uses the same insulation, and it's just really a mirror image on the additional 12-inch side. We also have come up with an Omni brick. We can make it look like brick. We can also make it look very contemporary. So that's also an option. And probably in Georgia, the brick look would be a popular option. We also do the split face block that is more of a commercial application, although there are a lot of residential buildings being done with it too. Our local plant here can also do a shot blast. And then on the right-hand side, you see a burnished. We call that burnished or honed. And that's just, again, where they polish the block. But this is an Omniblock, 8-inch block. And they have 2 finishes, one shot blast on the exterior and burnished on the interior. Behind this window jamb is where the seam occurs between the 2 looks there. So anyway, we can do a lot of finishes economically that you really couldn't do with other types of products, which adds to the architectural appetite, and it also makes it still look at all the products we're not having to use to create those looks. That's the important thing as far as being green. This was taken today out of Ohio. They're doing a Temple, Israel, pretty large complex. This is the first shot that I've seen of it, but it's a split face, and it was taken earlier this morning, just to be contemporary. You're seeing on the right-hand side here how we skim coat the block. If somebody wants to, which is what 90% of the people want, is a drywall look over the block. So we just skim coat that with regular drywall mud. You can see this application going on rather quickly. Once that's skim coated, that's like drywall. Whatever finish coat you're putting on your drywall, you spray on or trowel on our wall as well, so it perfectly matches. The largest home we've ever done is 24,000 square feet. We didn't have just one interior designer, we had 2 inspecting our work. And if we couldn't get that wall economically to match the interior drywall, we wouldn't be in the game. And we've got thousands of buildings up like this. The electrical then must go into the wall as the wall's going up, and it's flush with the block. And that's kind of a whole, we can answer some questions and show you some photos if there's some interest there. The cost is always something we want to talk about, and we want to talk about it relatively early in our presentation. With the price, even before the price of lumber going up, I mean, we were so close to the wood cost. It kind of depends on design, kind of depends on finishes and so on. But when you compare apples to apples, you can't just look at Omniblock line item and say, okay, well, that's that price, and over here's a wood frame or an ICF or some other straw bale. I mean, block. So there's tons of different types of building materials. You need to compare what the finished cost is going to be. How much do we bring to the table that other products do not bring to the table as far as our first entry? And so this particular house is in Texas. This builder is on his 3rd home now. This is a split face version. They have a really popular stone called Austin stone, and it's a limestone look, really pretty. This is not Austin limestone, but it's really, really close, and it's about half the cost. So this builder's building an Omniblock house entirely for much less than he could build it with wood and limestone. This is just a standard floor plan. This happens to be an architect out of Washington, University of Washington, actually, that I met 25 years ago, maybe 30 years ago now, when I was doing that green building thing for the city of Scottsdale. This guy was a pretty young person, an intern at Arizona Public Service, the power company in Arizona. And anyway, he called me about a year ago and said, "Hey, I want to, build with design a home with your block." And I said, "Well, love that." He didn't even know if I was still in business. He kind of lost track of each other. And of course, we are, and we have been, and never been out of business. But anyway, he's a tenured professor at the University of Washington. This is his plan. This is the SketchUp rendering that he did, that this is the building that was going to go up in Arizona. And so what I do is we take that plan, and we've got our different models that you just saw, the standard block, the stretcher. We've got models in our SketchUp library that's available online. And we take these architectural drawings, and we build the building block by block. So the mason sees this, the builder sees this, it's like becomes a kit, for example. And in this particular case, there's not one dimensional cut for the block. If I gave you 200 Legos and I gave you a Lego plan that was friendly and Lego windows and doors and said, yeah, go build that little 200 block home or building, you could do it in probably about an hour. If I gave you the same 200 Legos and a non-Lego friendly plan and non-Lego friendly windows and doors, and here's your little Makita saw, good luck with it. You would take a lot longer than an hour. You'd have a lot of waste. You'd need more than 200 block, and it just goes on and on and on. You have to dispose of the waste and so on. So in this case, we have no cuts, no dimensional cuts, and that's what we strive for, because guess what? A mason is going to give you a lot better price because of the efficiency of constructing the building with this type of application. The other thing that happens is we literally can count the block, exactly how many we need. Now we got to allow for some miscuts and some breakage on the job site, but we're not throwing a dart against a wall going, it looks like about this much block, and that way we can keep our numbers pretty tight. Structurally, the minimum is 2,000 PSI. If you just look to the right of that, it's 2,000 PSI. Our block is normally anywhere between 3,500 and 4,000. This particular block tested out at 3,740. And that's a really big deal because our block then becomes, under the ASTM standards, a standard concrete block. That means the inspectors see it as a standard block. That means the code officials see it as a standard block. That means the masons can lay it as a standard block. The structural engineers see it as a standard block. The architects see it as a standard. In other words, we're not out here in left field someplace trying to do something that is a little strange and people go, no, I don't want to mess with that. This is central. It's very concise, and it's very precise as far as their dimensions and as far as their engineering data that'll come out. That's real important. The second thing that's real important is, okay, the R value, the efficiency of the product. On the left-hand side, and we've used these tables for now 15 years at least, maybe closer to 20, but the concrete masonry standard block has the R values you see here. Let's just take that 125 pound density and then move it over. You got a R value of 1.5. On the right-hand side is Omniblock. We're a 19.6 R value with the 8-inch system. And the same 125 pound density right below that is the 12-inch, and that's 29.2. I'm working with a gentleman, an engineer, actually an HVAC contractor, engineer type out of Texas. He approached me actually, and he said, can I model your block? And there was some new software that's out, and I said, absolutely. And now he's up around an R24 for our block system, and I haven't, we got some more things to do and some checks and balances here before I publish that. We'd rather be under promise, over deliver company than to have something stated on our website that doesn't make sense. That pretty much concludes the presentation. So any questions you guys may have, I mean, I can open up my my website and we can go to it if there's something that I have not addressed. I would like to address one thing that Commissioner Echols mentioned, and that's the fly ash or the coal ash. Our block, most block plants will use a certain percentage of that fly ash as long as it's economical and available. They can't dump it into the block because of structural reasons, but they can use a certain percentage of it, and they like using it when they can. So.
Yeah, questions for Denny?
I just wanted to throw, excuse
Yeah,
me,
go ahead.
I wanted to throw out that my first reaction when I uncovered this product is I was actually looking for cost savings, not performance enhancement. And the neat thing about this product is you build your masonry wall and you're done. No sheathing, no siding, no lath, no drywall to hang. As long as you pick the right finish that you want for the outside, you've got a zero maintenance exterior. And my girlfriend and I are completely sold on this. We want an Omniblock house. And it's interesting that Denny and I actually first started chatting right around when we had a couple tropical storms come through North Georgia. And that really kind of highlighted a performance feature that's important in this part of the country, which is storm resilience.
So
we've got a number of buildings that have been built in and have gone through hurricanes. So that, I mean, structurally, we're actually working on getting ready to start a project, a pretty good sized low income housing project in Jamaica, followed up with one in Puerto Rico, or they may be running simultaneously. But the block is, I mean, I can't say it's indestructible because, you know, everything is destructible, but normally I get questions on, okay, that the energy efficiency side of things, where does that come into? We've done a number of case studies regarding our product, and it's kind of fun to go through those, but we will downsize your HVAC system. Going back to what was mentioned before, back in the day, they didn't really know about energy efficiency. Most HVAC contractors will still use the rule of thumb from Manual J, 1 ton of air conditioning for every 400 livable square feet. And we are around 1,000 per ton. So we can reduce your HVAC tonnage, which, by the way, reduces the cost of that equipment. But it also allows us, if someone's using a solar panels or whatever, the amount of energy that is required to kick on a 1 ton or 1.5 ton unit versus a 3 ton unit is substantially less. The other thing that's real important to know is that all these manufacturers of the HVAC equipment, whether it be Trane, Carrier, or Mitsubishi, doesn't really matter. They all conform to the ASTM testing that's being done on their equipment, and they all are allowed to run that equipment for 20 minutes, and then they take the SEER rating of the equipment. Well, that SEER rating is very important. Some of you guys may know about that, but that's the seasonal energy rating for the equipment. But the important thing is that the manufacturers are telling you this equipment's meant to run. It's not meant to go on and off, on and off. Most of you, if you take your stopwatch and or your phone and monitor or your time on the cycle time of your heat or your air conditioning, it's around 7 minutes, which means they're dumping tons of air. You feel it. It's uncomfortable. You hear it. And then it cycles off. Well, what we're about is comfort. You want to be energy efficient and comfortable. And when that cycle, if it's on for 20 minutes or thereabouts, you don't feel it, you don't hear it, and it draws a lot less current. You get better gas mileage on the freeway than you do stop and go. So,
what is the composition of your material? I'm sure it's trade secret, maybe, but I mean, does it have traditional, cement, components in it? Does it have coal ash in it?
It can. It depends on the location and it depends on the availability. Fly ash, coal ash. No, this is not a trade secret, Commissioner. This is standard block composition. It changes around the country because the quarries, the aggregate in quarries will vary. But as far as the block plants, see the wood industry, Weyerhaeuser, you could name a bunch of them. They're huge corporations. The block industry has always been way behind the learning curve, or the bell curve, I should say, because historically they were always mom and pop shops. They were owned by people that, because you can't ship the stuff very far. So somebody would put up a block plant locally and they would be just a little shop making some block. And that kind of transcended, it even transcends today to a certain degree, but they use their standard mix design for regular block for our block. So the composition is sand, cement, aggregate, some fly ash, and water.
Hey, Denny, this is Ben Carswell. I'm down at Jekyll Island, and I'm curious, for commercial applications, is the Omniblock product something that's competitive as an alternative to EFIS construction?
Absolutely. Good question. I love that question. And the reason I love it is because we knock the slop out of EFIS. You can get an EFIS look. I mean, for those that don't know what EFIS is, it's Exterior Insulation Finish System, EIFS. And what that is if it could be over wood frame, it could be over steel studs, it could be over block, it could be over really any material. And you have you may have seen it's usually gold insulation, fiberglass covered, and then they apply some sort of stucco over that to make it look really smooth and almost like tilt up. That's a real expensive finish, and it's a nice look, but we can get that same exact finish right over our block. Just add stucco. You can add a integral color stucco if you want to by Stowe or Drive It. I mean, there's a number of manufacturers out there right onto our block. Now, you in order to get a good Stowe finish or an integral finish, you would need a base coat over our block, and then you put which of stucco, and then you apply the integral color. That's standard. You do a 2-coat over the EFIS as well. Where the cost comes in is this, and this is regional, and it's all over. It's not prescripted just by certain regions. We're about $2 more than a regular block. So if you can buy a regular block at Home Depot for $1.50 or $2 or whatever, we're going to be about $2.50 more than that block. Well, that block doesn't meet code. So you have to either put an EFIS system on the outside, adding an R value and so on, or you need to come in and fur out the inside, insulate the inside, and sheetrock the inside. You can't do either one for anywhere near $2.50. It's impossible. And if you can, I got a lot of work for you.
So competitive in terms of both price and energy efficiency.
Yeah. And we'll, okay, quick story. Stories are sometimes worth more than me telling you. We were shipping, this is 10 years ago, we started shipping block into Brooklyn. And I had talked to some different players in Brooklyn, but I didn't, you lose track of some of these guys, but we're starting now to ship block. So I found out who the company was, and I called him. I said, hey, I appreciate your business, blah, blah, blah. What was the deciding factor in using Omniblock? It would make sense to me for me to know. Oh, he says, are you kidding? He says, we're zero lot line. So we're going from zero, right up to the next building. So we can do that. We can work from the interior. So that made it pencil out. The other thing is we don't have to fur out, insulate, and sheetrock. Well, that 4 inches, the buildings were 3 stories, 30 by 80. You do the math, 30 by 80 times 4 inches, that's 75 square feet per floor at $1,200 per square foot market value. About $75,000 per floor that we're adding to the market value, and we're saving them all the cost of insulating, sheetrock, and furring out. Plus, we're giving them a more durable face on the wall. Plus, we're exposing the thermal mass, which is very important in energy efficiency. So there's all the pluses, and we're saving them money.
Thanks.
Denny, what's the status of the build you have going in Brunswick?
I put a call into the builder or the supplier. I don't know who the builder is. Well, I have a name. I don't have I have a company name. I don't have an individual. I didn't get a hold of the supplier this morning. I can let you know what the status is of that. I know one thing. We started shipping block like around the 15th of December. No, the 10th of December. And, I don't know how your guys' business work, but no news is good news. So I haven't heard from them. It lays up just like regular block. I can tell you this, and this is kind of a story that it's hard to believe, but I might have told you, Julian, but like 15 years ago, again, we did our first commercial building in New Hampshire. It was the state of New Hampshire's liquor distribution building, huge building. And the Masons calling, never didn't even know what Omniblock was. And he's doing it, but he's a good guy and everything. And so I spent some time on him, educating him how to put it together and stuff. And I said, I'll come there, and he said, no, I think we're okay. And I said, well, I'm willing to, come there. He goes, well, it lays up like block, right? And I said, yep. So anyway, the job goes on. Hey, this is the first New Hampshire building. I said, can you send me some photographs of the project going up? He goes, yeah, I can do that. Well, he didn't. And I get a phone call from him, with a question. I answer the question, click, and I was going to ask him, where's the photos? Well, he called me the next 2-3 days later, and I said, look, I'm going to answer the question, but you need to hang up, send me some photos, and then I'll answer the question. And he kind of laughed a little bit. Okay, so he's sending me the photos, and he calls me back. I'm looking at the photos, and I'm looking. I'm noticing. I said, hey, how's the job going? He goes, oh, it's going great. He goes, it's going fine. We just have this question here, and I said, I'm looking at the job. He put the block in ass backwards. Pardon the expression. He turned it around. So the exterior was in the interior, and the interior was in the exterior. But it worked. It's okay. The rebar was okay. As long as he had that in line. But what system can you put up wrong and it still be right?
Yeah. Hey, Denny, in Brunswick, and Ben is very close to Brunswick down there. Do you know what type of facility that your block is building in?
Yes, it's a shrimp and fish distribution center.
Oh, okay.
So it's a commercial building, and we're there. It's a pretty extensive addition. The facility is a much bigger facility. We're doing a pretty good size addition onto the facility.
Is it King and Prince Seafood by chance?
What is it?
King and Prince Seafood, maybe?
King and Prince Seafood.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Great.
King,
Okay.
I didn't understand that. Yes, King.
I'm gonna be down there going through next week. I may try to drop by and see that myself.
I will. We're totally open to that. We encourage that. Unlike some of my competition, they don't want you to go to the job sites. We want you to go to the job sites. Let me get a hold of the builder and pass along that information so you can kind of have a little bit of a warm welcome.
Okay. Is there anyone else with questions for Denny? And if not, we're going to go to some reports from everyone, which is a part of our call. Anybody else have a question for Denny?
I have a question. So how malleable are these walls with something like renovation or electrical repair post-build? So is it like extremely difficult to do, or is it relatively easy? Is it going to be expensive?
Well, that's a great question. This is heavyweight construction, heavyweight materials. But here's what we do. So in some cases, we built houses with the expandability feature where we can knock out a certain section to open it up for the future expansion. So we build it so that like there's a doorway that we prefab it into the program. Knocking out one little area is not that big a deal. You can see down on the screen here on the lower right-hand side, because you asked about electrical. We recommend running electrical all the way around the building at that 16-inch level like you see it in that conduit. What that does is allows us to know that if somebody wants to add an electrical box over in a corner or over wherever, we've got a fish tank we're going to put over here now, which is a true story. And we don't want to see the wiring, so we can cut into the block, cut into the PVC and fish a new wire. So it's pretty easy to do. We've done that to schools. We've done that to churches. We've done that a number of times where they've all of a sudden added an AV. They wanted some more AV over here, so we had to add it. It was really pretty. And everybody shook their head. They couldn't believe how easy it was. Now, if you want to just take down a whole wall and move out a window, no, that's going to be hard to do.
Anybody else with a question for Denny?
Hey guys, thank you very much. I'm going to get off of here unless you want me to be on here, but I appreciate the opportunity. Any questions you have, my email is dmiller@omniblock.com. You can contact Julian as well. Hoping to answer any other questions that might come up.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Denny, if you want to stop sharing your screen,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
Thanks, Denny.
Thank you.
We've got a couple of visitors today. You heard from Ben Carswell. Is that my friend Thomas from Morocco? Is that the Consul General from Japan in Morocco? Are you there, Thomas? Turn your video on if you are, because I haven't seen you in a while, and I'd love to say hello. Well, we'll see if he turns it on. Justin Butera from Cox Automotive here today as well. Hey, yes, it is Thomas. It is so good to see you. This is my friend Thomas. He was Consul General of Japan to Atlanta, and he's in Morocco. I'm assuming you're in Morocco right now, right, Thomas?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, and Thomas, I won't catch up with you in front of everybody here, but let me ask you, the buildings in Morocco, are they using, do they use block there? Because they have that stucco look. What are they building those buildings from?
Generally, it's made with bricks or blocks.
Yeah.
Concrete. Yes.
And then in Japan, of course, in Tokyo, where I was last year, you guys have very robust construction of different types. But one of the things I remember with your trash facilities is that you were making blocks out of incinerated trash that was, I guess, not water soluble, and you were using it to backfill and create additional land. Do you know much about the incineration process for that trash in Tokyo?
Yes, I'm not a specialist, but if you'd like, I can provide you some information later.
Yeah, that'll be great. Well, Thomas is a dear friend, and it's so good to see him on the call. Thomas, I want to come to Morocco. I got to have a conference to come to speak at or something. I can't just randomly come, but I would love to be there. Let me go to Ben Carswell if Ben's still on. Ben, I know you guys are going to be building a new facility down there for your emergency management stuff. Have you thought much about how you would incorporate sustainability into that facility?
Just at the beginning of that, we haven't really designed the building extensively yet, but I'll certainly be raising those issues as we go through that process. And really appreciate the invite today, because the presentation was very timely for that. I think looking into Omniblock is something that'll be something I'll raise. And I don't know, can't recall how much you and I have talked about EFIS construction, which I brought up earlier, which while it does help insulate the building, is a conservation concern, because it generates a mess that's very difficult to contain of small EPS particles when that styrofoam is rasped and worked and cut as it's put on the outside of the building. And so we've had some problems with that here in hotel construction over the years. So very interesting. Thank you.
Wow. And it's cool that the Omniblock is being used over there at the King and Prince Seafood, because you guys can just go over there and look at it and decide for yourself.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So Justin Butera with Cox Automotive. Justin, I know you're the car and EV specialist down there, but you guys, Cox has really prided itself on sustainability, from composting in your corporate headquarters to, solar and wind. Is this a topic that you've ever heard brought up, about building things in a more sustainable manner?
Yeah, hey Commissioner, hey everyone. I joined pretty late, so I caught the very tail end of the presentation, but it seemed like some pretty cool stuff. But I don't like to end any week without seeing Commissioner Echols, so thought I would pop in. Yeah, I think we like Commissioner said, I work for Cox Automotive. I lead our Pivot Atlanta facility, so we deal with fleet servicing. Cox as a whole has some pretty aggressive sustainability targets that we continue to hit and will hit in the future. Most of the things we've done so far around water conservation and energy conservation, renewable energy, water diversion, all of that stuff. But yeah, I think we haven't built a new facility in a while because I think we've reused a lot for what we have. But I think if we were to build something new, we would definitely look at all of the possible solutions.
Great. Crystal, I know you're at Georgia Gwinnett. We've talked about, your car sharing idea. How things going with you I guess, are you back on campus, or, everything is just kind of stopped in its tracks, for a number of different projects. So give us an update on what you've been working on.
Okay, so yeah, I'm not on campus yet. We've been out of school for a little bit. We're supposed to go back, not next week, but the week after. So I haven't gotten a whole lot done. I've been moving as well. I've been working on a project proposal because I've repeatedly heard from staff and administration that I've talked to there, something about, well, do you have something I can look at, a project proposal? They want to see something in writing about what I'm talking about, other than just what I've been explaining at the little webinars I'm going to. So that's what I've been working on, writing up, and just having that to be able to email to them all and then talk to them again about it. But that's where I'm at right now.
Great. I see two of my staff on, Jamie and Tim. Jamie, what's cooking in your department at the Public Service Commission?
A lot at the moment. We're working on the avoided cost docket, which we have a hearing on the 19th. So Tim is a witness in that case. So we're working on cross and getting prepped for the hearing. And then working with Georgia Power on modeling energy efficiency resources. They're working on a white paper. It was a requirement from the 2019 IRP order. So we're looking at a lot of bundles. We're super busy at the moment. So I'm going to be busy at least through March. So, but beyond that, but of course, we're procuring a lot of resources. We're in the middle of several RFPs. So got a lot going on, but the most imminent thing, of course, is the avoided cost docket that will affect how PERPA QFs are compensated in the future.
And if that's,
and we're learning a new modeling software.
What's that, Tim?
And we're learning a new modeling software.
So this minutia that Tim and Jamie are talking about, that's my world. Of course, these guys are my brain. I just get to make the votes, right? I've got the easy job, right, Jamie? Just running for election. No big deal.
Hey, Tim, this is Lance Toland.
Lance, good to see you. And you're not too far from that King and Prince Seafood Omniblock build they're doing down there.
No, I'm not. I mean, you know, I'm exiled out there on the lunatic island. So I'm up on the north end of Sea Island, but today I'm at my farm up in South Georgia. But I saw your deal here. I wanted to bring something up that may be of interest to you. You know, I built some hangars and totally in aviation space, but I'm proposing some new hangars at various facilities. And these are kind of down the road, but I don't know if you've seen all these tornadoes and this, that, and the other. I'm going to propose a totally different departure from the steel frame hangars. And down at St. Simon's, for example, down on the end where my office is located, that hangar is about 50 years old, and that hangar has exceeded its useful life. I mean, it's just a patch as we go type thing. I've had to reskin it, re-roof it, and because of electrolysis, the bottoms of the tiers, the supporting structure will basically disintegrate over a period of time. It's the damnedest thing I've ever seen down there. So we have a lot of grounding and a lot of electrical problems that cause the steel to disintegrate. So what I'm proposing down there, and I did have a meeting with the airport commission, not the airport commission, the airport director, Robert Burr, this week. I flew down just for the meeting. And I'm going with proposing all concrete structures going forward. They meet or exceed the wind loads, but more importantly, they're more energy efficient, have a longer useful life. And they also, to me, have the capacity that we can run solar arrays on the tops of them so that we can, you know, look into that aspect or component, because by the time you build 200,000 or 300,000 square feet of hangars, that's a lot of solar capacity that could be fed back into that local grid. Now, I'm not sure if that's really a win-win, but again, this is just something we're looking at, but we definitely, on any further construction we do, we're not going with steel.
Well, we have net metering in Georgia now, thanks to the commission. And there's still, I don't know, Jamie, would a hangar qualify for net metering? It would have to be within a certain number of kilowatts, right?
Yeah, 250 and below.
Yeah, so Lance, if you do put solar on, don't go over 250 kilowatts and you can net meter it. And it's going to, from what the solar developers tell me, it improves your payback by 30%. And we only approved 32 total megawatts of net metering for the state of Georgia. Jamie, what are we at now?
A little over 1. I think it's 1.5, but I haven't looked at it this week. So there's still room.
Yeah.
I
So
think it's higher than that. I think I just checked it not that long ago. I think it's like 5 or something now. It jumped.
Oh, well, maybe I'm talking about 1,000 customers, so it may be bigger. Yeah.
So Lance, you've got this 26% federal tax credit that's been extended. So that was in the bill that was done, I guess, right at the end of the year. So they extended the federal tax credit. Sol, am I right? 2 years? Do y'all know? 2 years at 26%. Then you've got this net metering provision, and this is for Georgia Power customers. And that hangar at St. Simon's, that's going to be Georgia Power, right, Lance?
Absolutely, yes, Georgia Power. And I guess what interests me is when I fly the helicopter from the farm down to the house or the office there, when I'm transiting, there's so many new solar farms. I mean, anywhere from an acre to, it looks like 1,000 acres outside of Macon. So that pretty much prodded my interest on something was going on I needed to look into.
Yeah. So that's Twiggs County that you saw, the 1,000 acres. And
right.
All of that is brought about through these policies that we set up at the commission. That connection is really never made to the general public, which is why our office, the political races about the commission, they're so obscure, nobody's understands it, but those are direct policies from our agency. And so hope you can take advantage of that net metering. Does anyone else have anything for the good of the order? Because we've only got 4 minutes left today. So great to have Lance on and Thomas from Morocco. Anyone else want to give a report that hasn't given a report today?
excuse me, Lance, I just put a link in the chat for a roof system that Denny had shared with me that would give you the same kind of storm resilience as the block walls themselves.
Yeah, we're looking, essentially that, the configuration we're looking at now is literally the, almost like building a parking lot and not parking on the upper deck, so to speak. It's a double T arrangement for the span, about an 80 to 100 foot span. I'm sure you're familiar with that. But I'm about to, of all things, I'm about to run out of battery here myself with a few minutes. But if anybody could reach out to me, or Tim, if any of your people could reach out to Lance at lancetolan.com with anything that might be of interest to us on this hangar project. The first one may very well be going into St. Simons and or Brunswick at the Brunswick Airport.
Yeah, Jamie, if you could send him an email, Lance at lancetoland, TOLAND.com. And I will as well, I'll send you 2 or 3 developers. If you haven't talked to a developer yet, you can bid it out. And I think it's a great idea, especially on a brand new construction. It makes a lot of sense. All right, Julian, or anyone else have anything for the good of the order before we end our call today?
Commissioner, I want to make sure, is it Lance at lancetoland.com? I want to make sure I got that right. Okay.
Yes.
And
Yes.
he's just wanting to know some solar developers.
Yeah, maybe you could send him that little fact sheet about net metering that you sent to a couple folks.
Yeah, and everyone just saw, I just updated it. It's 6.4. It's 1,500 customers. So we're still a ways away from it. So more than likely we won't reach it before the next rate case, but you never know. But I know that, as Commissioner knows, it will be an issue in the rate case because I'm getting phone calls on it already about expanding it and other things. So
Yeah. All right, Thomas, so good to have you on the call too, from Morocco. God bless you. Thank you for being on the call. All right, everyone, have a great weekend and we'll see you next time.
I see everyone.